Welcome to Medicine Singing, and you have come here and noticed its purpose, and then you clicked on Lost. You'll see that with each subject, such as Lost, there are 3 blessings that come with it. The first blessing with Lost is from lost to exploring. The second blessing with Lost is journal as journey. And welcome now to the third blessing of Lost, how to help a friend when they're lost. This is where you'll find your work of changing your orientation from lost to exploring will serve you and your friends very well. The time that you spend in your journal from the perspective of journey will prepare you for when a friend calls in need, saying that they are lost. What they don't need is you showing up to help them and you're lost. So now you are shifting from lost to exploring. You're using your journal as journey and finding that golden thread that is unfolding in your personal life. And you will receive a call from a friend or loved one who is lost. Now, if you were my child, I would immediately say when you called, "Where are you?" And you would tell me, and I would say, "Stay there, I'll be right there." We come to our friends. We show up, and outside the door, we stop. We listen. We ponder. And we adore. We adore the gift of the moment where a friend has asked us for help. And as we adore, you approach the door and you knock. First, we listen to our friend. We listen from our orientation of exploring because they're in the orientation of lost. If we're lost and they're lost, we don't hear quite as well. So now we are exploring how to be a good friend. And as we listen from the orientation of exploring, we can more acutely hear their experience of being lost. Not only because we know the experience, but because we're listening from another part of the universe, which is that of exploring. And besides, since we have shifted from anxiety to exploring, and we have induced a sense of adventure and excitement, we are totally present. We've left all the noise in our own minds outside. We are here for them, not for our own ego. We listen to understand. We are totally present, and sometimes that is sufficient in itself. If our friend begins to ask, after sharing their story, ask us for help, we still listen from the perspective of exploring. Not to solve the problem for them, but to explore what the problem means to them as a gift for their own growth. And we're free to do that because we're not in fear and we're in the orientation of exploring. The wondrous part about being present with a friend who is lost and has asked us to come and be with them is first to remember that your being there is enough. You are enough because you are not lost. You are exploring. Where you are is not lost, and who you are is not lost. And where you are in the moment you are experiencing is sacred. So you have everything you need to be of service to your friend, to eventually become a hero, a helper, or a healer. And they may also become that to you in this exchange. Now, looking with the eyes of exploring, we see that before us, as we listen to our friend or our loved one, there is a book before us that unfolds the journal. We are blessed to come into the experience of what is being written in their journal, even if they are not writing. The story's unfolding. There's a golden thread there to be respected and honored and invited, just as there is in our story, in our journal. So we may first listen to their list of events that occurred that resulted in their being lost. We may reflect with them on the events that occurred that led to their feeling lost, and we listen to understand their experience, not needing to help them solve anything other than be present with them as we explore their being lost. And then the event itself occurs in the engagement between the two of you, you and your friend. Is that magical story, even if there is a presentation of suffering, anxiety, and fear, which there will be because they are lost, and you yourself are familiar with that territory. But you're coming from the land of exploring. You can listen acutely, and you can be audacious enough to believe that what is occurring between the two of you is their autobiographical experience, from which they will write the story of their life in this experience of listening and being present with your friend as they are lost. Should your friend ask for help and ask for specific solutions, we're very careful before we respond. Our old self, coming from that place of being lost, wants to run, wants to solve the problem, doesn't want there to be any anxiety, wants it to go away, and so we may want to rush to tell them what to do. We've left that outside. Instead, we stop. We honor the place between the inhale and the exhale. We listen. We ponder with them the events of their experience. And we adore the fact that we are with our friend at this precious moment and sacred time. Should they ask you to be more helpful in terms of problem solving, you have your own rich experience of bringing to the forefront your life story, what has worked for you, which may not or may work for them. But it's the sharing of the story that helps, because then they know you've been listening and you're there to help them and experience with them the golden thread of their life, this unfolding journal in their journey, of which we are now a part because of their invitation. One of the ways you can be helpful to your friend when they ask for a solution to particular problems is to, again, slow the process down and reflect. Remember that principle of when I have had an experience, I take time to reflect, and in my reflection, I then can come back out in action, a wiser person for it. You want to help them reflect on the experience and come back out of that wiser for it, more open, and perhaps you'll invite them to shift from an orientation of loss to one of exploring, and tell them what that's been like for you. And then you become the invitation. Should they ask you again for more specifics, you be sure that you're honoring and respecting their space. If it is an invitation that they are asking and are willing to listen, it is your obligation, your gift, to share with them the best that you have to give. And remember this, usually in the sharing, when we offer suggestions, we become the old self, quite invested in their accepting our help the way that we give it. And if they don't, we may experience being offended or misunderstood. We leave that outside too. All you have to do is be present, and you are sufficient, because who you are and where you are is not lost. And fully present in this sacred moment, no matter what practical things you may offer your friend while they are lost, will be sufficient. Not because it's the absolute right solution, but because you entered into the story with respect. You give them the gift that you have to give, your capabilities and competencies, your own sense of meaning and purpose, and like a smorgasbord before you, you let them choose what they will and leave the rest. In our freedom from being out of lost, in our orientation now of exploring, we are free to experience the blessing of their choosing what they will from what we have shared, and to use it as they will. We are no longer attached to it because we've given it truly as a gift for them to take what they will and leave the rest. You will then eventually take your leave. You end the phone call, you leave where they are, return to your own place. Don't forget to journal. Don't forget to reflect on the actions you've taken. Recall and be blessed with the gifts that you gave them in their experience of being lost. And what you will find is you have been there for your friend. You have helped them and perhaps become a hero, perhaps not. Perhaps become a helper, perhaps not. Perhaps you've become a healer, perhaps not. You will become what they choose to receive from it. And we celebrate that they are free to choose. And in that experience, out of freedom and exploring, you have been a friend. And you have been a friend to them. And you have been a friend to yourself.